Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. We have a really powerful episode for you today. Our guest today is Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett is the mom of Jesse Lewis. Jesse is a hero. He was one of 20 kids and 26 people who were murdered at Sandy Hook Elementary School back in December 14th of 2012. You'll hear today that Jesse actually helped save some of his classmates. Jesse was a first grader, and he saved some of his classmates. Scarlett is here to tell us how she was able to take that tragedy and turn it into the Choose Love movement that is spreading love and kindness and compassion throughout the world. Please welcome to the show, Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett, how are you?
Good. How are you, Jed?
I'm wonderful. I'm excited to speak to you, a little bit nervous to speak to you too, because of course Jesse was one of the children who were murdered at Sandy Hook many years ago, and I am not sure I can get through this without becoming emotional.
You know, it's incredible what I've learned from that experience, Jed, and a lot of, actually the entire organization that I founded, the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement, started when I saw a message that Jesse had left on our kitchen chalkboard. He wrote 3 words shortly before he died: nurturing, healing, love. On our kitchen chalkboard, they were phonetically spelled because he was in first grade and just learning how to write. But I knew from that message that that was what was needed in order to help heal wounds that led to the shooting. And so I knew that that was what I was going to focus my life's mission on, is spreading that message. And that's exactly what we're doing today. And it's all inspired by Jesse.
Yeah. You know, we had a guest on the show not too long ago, Bob McKinnon, who wrote 3 Little Engines. And one of the things that he said during our interview was, hurt people hurt people. And that's certainly the case with your son, somebody who is very sick and hurt, turn that pain into this incredibly violent act.
It's so true. I mean, if you read about the shooter's history, really you could only feel compassion for him, which is what I do, which is why everything that I do every day is as much for Jesse as it is for those such troubled young people that they are thinking about not only harming themselves, but harming other people as well.
Yeah. Before we go on, and there's so much I want to ask you, I have to know where, I know those words in the chalkboard, you know, gave you inspiration, but and you know, my religion teaches me to be forgiving and to love and to look beyond, but I don't know if I could have done that. I think I'd be filled with so much rage and anger, and I don't know if a year or 20 years could help me get past that. How did you get past that?
You know, anger is a completely acceptable feeling. It's actually helpful at times because it helps us move forward or get out of situations that we need to move away from. But prolonged anger is hurtful for us, for the person who is angry. And I made a decision. I did not want to spend the rest of my life being another victim of that situation. Because when we have prolonged anger, frustration, and hatred, that is literally victimizing ourselves to the person who hurt us. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to model for my surviving son what literally choosing love looks like. And it looks like a powerful formula that we practice that came out of Jesse's message of nurturing, healing love. It looks like having courage. And of course, Jesse had tremendous courage. Jesse stood up to the shooter when he came into his classroom, and he saved 9 of his classmates' lives. Wow. You know, we learned that pretty early on. And I always think about that because I think, wow, if Jesse had the courage at 6 years old to save 9 of his friends in that situation as his last act, I certainly can get up every morning and put my best foot forward and use what I've learned to help other people, because every school shooting is 100% preventable, as is the majority of the suffering that we're seeing in our world, including anxiety, depression, suicide, substance abuse, loneliness. So much of this is preventable by learning essential life skills. And that's what the Choose Love movement does. It literally has lifespan programming that is free for schools, homes, and communities. And it is next generation, comprehensive social and emotional and character development that can be taught in classrooms. It's fun. It's engaging. The teachers and parents can learn right alongside their kids. We now have communities across the country that are celebrating Choose Love Days. In fact, I'm flying down to North Carolina on Friday. So it's really taken off like wildfire. It's in over 10,000 schools in every state and 112 countries, all by word of mouth. And this is really, I think, because deep down inside, we are all the same in the want and need to love and be loved. All of us want to be loved. All of us need connection for our survival. We want to belong, and we all also feel pain. So right off the bat, when you're communicating with another person, you know that you have these two things in common, and that can give you a foundation to connect from.
That's so very important. What a valuable tool to teach anybody, not only a kid, but that to help them understand that we, at the bottom line, we share this humanity, we share this desire to be connected with one another. And if we can see that, if we can accept that, we can probably work out whatever other nonsense might be separating us.
We need to learn skills and tools. They're really important, and we're not born with them. That's the key thing. There's a reason why they're called essential life skills, because these are skills and tools we use in every aspect of life, with our kids, at home, at work, in our communities. And they help provide peace. And if we didn't learn them as a child, at home, and by the way, if you're a parent that doesn't have these skills, and by the way, a lot of them don't, I didn't. At 44 years old, I realized quickly, I don't have a lot of these skills and tools, then you can't give what you don't have. And then if the kids don't learn them, or they aren't practiced in school, you can get to be an adult without these skills and tools. And I can say that because I was that adult. I had great parents, but they didn't have these skills and tools. I certainly didn't learn them in school. So I got to be an adult without them. I've learned them through helping create this program. And I have to tell you that my life is exponentially better despite the tragedy and trauma that I've suffered, even before losing Jesse. I have the skills and tools to be able to learn from difficulty in my life, to grow through it, and to even be strengthened by it. It is possible. It's called post-traumatic growth. It's a thing. It's got a lot of research behind it, and it's a possibility for all of us, but we have to be aware that it exists. We have to consciously practice these skills and tools, and they can benefit all of us. They can benefit the world.
Yeah. I'm really excited to hear that this program is being used in 10,000 schools, and I want to ask you just about the program and some of the specific things kids are learning. But I have to tell you, when you folks first approached me and I'm hearing the word love, choose love, I've had experiences in my, performing at schools. I was chastised severely by a guidance counselor in a school in Vermont for telling my audience that I love them and that their teachers love them. And I was told that that was inappropriate, that the teachers were professionals and we don't love these kids. And I thought, how did we get to this place in this world? So, and I remember at a different school, I said, I just want to check, can I say that can I use the word love? And they said, well, if you want to talk about loving a hamburger, yeah, but loving each other, not so much. So,
is that amazing? We can say, I love a hamburger, but we can't say, I love you.
I know. I was blown away.
I believe that. And I think that kind of thinking was predominant. However, we see where that's gotten us. Mm-hmm. Now we have kids in so much pain that school shootings are not the new normal anymore. They are a normal occurrence. In fact, when we see that it's happened again and it happens once a week, we're just kind of like, gosh, that's so unfortunate. I still think that we all think, oh, that's too bad, but it's never going to happen to me. And, we're more connected than that. And I think a lot of times we wait for someone else to fix something. Well, let me tell you something. If they could have, they would have. And I'm talking about all these super pandemic issues. I call them super pandemic. I don't know if there's a word above pandemic. Nobody's been able to tell me. I've looked it up as a synonym. So I call the super pandemics, all of these issues that we've been focusing on since I was in school. I'm talking about bullying. I'm talking about suicide. I'm talking about substance abuse. We've developed and spent billions of dollars on programs that are now mandatory in schools, while these same issues continue to escalate, unabated, out of control, higher than ever before. And so when are we going to stop doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? What Choose Love does is different. It focuses on the cause of all of those issues. And you can't be talking about a solution unless you address the cause.
So let's talk about that cause.
Yeah, let's talk about that cause. People say I have a one-track mind, but in reality, everything always comes back to our level of social and emotional intelligence. Social and emotional intelligence is really knowing how to have healthy relationships and meaningful connections, how to identify, label, manage, and express our emotions, how to learn from, grow through, and even be strengthened by difficulty, how to make responsible decisions, coping skills. All of these things are social and emotional intelligence. And by the way, we're not born with any of this. We have to learn it. And then it's not enough. Some of your audience might be thinking, well, I know all that. I know all that. But it's not enough to know it. We have to practice it. And I like to say that life is this beautiful thing that gives us many opportunities all day long to practice our social and emotional intelligence.
You're absolutely right. These skills, this knowledge, it's useless unless you put it into action and you practice it. So let's take a look at how Choose Love works in a classroom. Say my kid is in a third grade classroom and the teacher is going to be teaching a Choose Love lesson. What's going to be happening in the class?
So Choose Love is spread out throughout the year. Sometimes schools are able to check off the social and emotional learning box by having a week-long kindness program or a workshop or a speaker, but that actually doesn't make a lasting difference. What does, and by the way, there are decades of research supporting this, what does is a comprehensive year-long social and emotional learning program that is taught with fidelity. That means that the educator wants to do it and embraces it and also practices it and models it for the kids. And so, in an ideal world, all of the school would have embraced Choose Love. So that means that they would have broken their year down into 4 quarters. And the first quarter, they would be focusing on courage, because courage is the most important character value. It's the one that underlies all the rest. So the front office people, the janitor, the people that serve lunch, the aides that come in, the volunteers, the gym teacher, everyone, the librarian, the bus drivers, everyone would be focused on courage in their languaging, in their modeling, in their practicing. And so your child in their 3rd grade would have a lesson on being courageous, and they would maybe start with breathing. Every lesson starts with a breathing technique. And this is really important, especially with all of the anxiety and trauma that we have in our classrooms. 25 years ago, there was an incredible study on trauma in kids called the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Experiences. That study found 1 in 5 kids was coming to the classroom having experienced at least one traumatic event. Then right before COVID hit, it was 35 to 50% of kids coming into the classroom having experienced at least one traumatic event. And now we're assuming it's between 90 and 100% because we've all been through so much, and our brains are not designed for 24/7 global information. So you're seeing this unprecedented level of overwhelm. And so the kids would come into the classroom and they would have a moment where they could they could come to the present moment, and they would probably do a brave breath. And that is putting one hand on the heart, one hand on the tummy, and taking a few moments to breathe in for 4, to hold for 4, to breathe out for 4, to hold for 4, just to come to the present moment. Let their brains know that they are safe, because we all have this trauma filter. Everywhere that we go, everything that we do is run through this trauma filter first, when you understand how the brain works. So we don't know our brain's asking questions, but it's going, have you been here before? Is this safe? Do you know this person? Right? So we really have to, self-regulate first. And so this gives the kids and the teacher, because who knows what the teacher what happened. They may have gotten cut off or had an argument before coming into the classroom. This gives everyone the chance to self-regulate and then to relate to one another in the classroom. You can only connect and relate with other people when you've self-regulated. So we have a bunch of tools that helps kids do that, so they can do that on their own when they're feeling a little anxious. This is all trauma informed. And then we reach our prefrontal cortex, where logic and reasoning reside, and we can learn. So literally we're walking kids and the educator through the steps that it takes every day to be able to sit and effectively learn. And we've got a lot of learning to catch up on. So we have a brand new program actually that we developed in COVID to specifically do that. It's called Choosing Love in Our Brave New World. And it talks about where we are now. I mean, we're all out of our comfort zone, but that means that we're all in our growth zone. And so this is an opportunity for growth, and it helps kids understand that. have a new perspective on what's happening, deal with their anxiety in a positive way, maybe reframe that, and it helps them move forward and get ready to learn. And then they move into their Choose Love for school. So a lot of schools are doing that. And so they would start with a whole quarter focused on lessons about courage. And courage is so important because it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes courage to be our authentic self, to tell the truth, to do the right thing, even to face our difficulty and challenges and roadblocks, even pain and suffering in our lives, instead of resisting and avoiding and maybe even numbing ourselves. And then the second quarter, the kids would move into gratitude. And gratitude is so important. This is our Choose Love formula. Everything that we teach, mindfulness, positive psychology, post-traumatic growth, character development, neuroscience, trauma techniques, all of this is taught under this simple formula. Then gratitude. And gratitude we use as the great mind shifter. So we all have this negative bias. We focus on the negative. And by the way, that's why we have been focusing on bullying, suicide, and substance abuse the way that we have, because we're wired to be reactive and to focus on the problem. And when you focus on something, it grows. So we train kids. We teach kids about how they think. The majority of our thoughts as human beings are negative and repetitive, and it's not a bad thing. It's how we think, and it's our brain's way of keeping us safe. All we need is to be aware of it and have a few techniques. And one of them is gratitude, because you can only focus on one thought at a time. So we start with this lesson. You can only focus on an angry, resentful, frustrated, lower energy thought, or a grateful thought. So when you're ready to shift out of that, it's really important to have the courage to sit with difficult thoughts. But when you're ready to shift away from that, you can think of something that you're grateful for. And there's always something to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. So we teach kids how to use gratitude to their benefit. Then the third quarter, we would move into forgiveness. Forgiveness is so important. And I have to say, and this, by the way, follows Jesse's message, because nurturing means loving kindness, and gratitude. Healing literally means forgiveness. And when people heard that I wanted to put forgiveness in the program, all the adults kind of rubbed their chins and they said, forgiveness, that's too lofty a topic for kids. But guess what? It turns out that it's kids' favorite character value. And I still can't believe I'm saying that. And when they tell me that, I say, seriously, like, why forgiveness? And they say because it feels like a superpower, and it feels so good to let it go. And they start learning this early. And it's pretty interesting because when you look at the decades of research behind the benefits of forgiveness for the forgiver, the number one is healthy relationships. And we know through Harvard University's lifespan study that healthy relationships is the number one way to happiness. So you see how this all comes together. So they learn about forgiveness. They learn about communication. They learn about how to have healthy relationships and meaningful connections. And by the way, so important, and we have to learn these skills and tools. We aren't born with the ability. And if you look around today, you can realize that there are some adults that don't have these skills and tools, or if they do, they're not practicing them. And then love is our final character value, is compassion in action. And they will learn to identify the need or want of another person and then actively do something to help ease that need or want. And the incredible thing in this is that we teach the difference between empathy and compassion, which is really important, especially now. And I'm talking to the teachers and those in the medical field now that are listening. And thank you, first of all, for everything that you do. You are our modern day superheroes. But I have been seeing a lot of articles that talk about empathy burnout. I'm sorry. I've been seeing a lot of articles that talk about compassion burnout. And when you look at the science behind compassion, and how it benefits you when you practice it, how it energizes you and strengthens you and makes you feel good, there is no such thing. And it's really important to understand the difference. There is empathy burnout. Empathy is when you put yourself in the other person's shoes, when you feel their pain. You can only do this for so long. That lights up the same receptors in your brain as physical pain. So there is empathy burnout. There is empathy fatigue, but there isn't compassion. So when you practice compassion and you're mindfully aware of the benefits, of the scientific benefits, which, by the way, are listed all over in our program, because there's research from Harvard that shows when you're aware of the benefits of something, you experience them on an exponential level. When you're aware of that, you will be strengthened and you'll feel good, and you'll be able to do that for your patients and for your children, for your students. So that is the formula. That's what they would learn all throughout the year. They'd not only learn it, but they would practice it. There's a place in every lesson that says have a lot of fun. So there's a section where they would have a lot of fun. They would get up and move. Their corresponding slides, their little cartoons that the kids watch, and also their corresponding lessons for parents. So there's a part of each lesson where they take home to the parents. And so the parents can practice it with the kids. And truly, this is so important now, especially in COVID. It's, I started this whole movement 8.5 years ago following Jesse's murder, really at his funeral. And I say that because I got up to speak at his funeral and I said this whole tragedy started with an angry thought in the shooter's head. Now, the shooter was a former student of Sandy Hook whose mother had taught. He went back to his elementary school to perpetrate the crime. It all started with an angry thought. And the amazing thing to me is that an angry thought can be changed. Mm-hmm. So I asked everybody that day, the congregation, everybody's been asking me what they can do. There is something you can do. Just start thinking about what you think about and change one angry thought a day into a loving thought. I said, by doing that, you will make yourself feel better. You will positively impact those around you. And through the ripple effect, you will make this a safer, more peaceful and loving world. I started this whole thing to make schools safe. And people went out to the four corners of the United States, and then they started calling me, emailing me, texting me, saying that one simple act had completely changed their lives. And I knew that I was onto something. So that was actually my idea. I'm going to spread this message that we can choose our thoughts, and we know every single thought through the latest neuroscience impacts us on a cellular level. It wires our brains one way or another, every thought towards languishing or flourishing, and we can control our thoughts with some practice and with some skills and tools. And so that was my idea. And then educators, early childhood development specialists, doctoral professors, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists got involved, and they created the Choose Love movement with me.
That's beautiful. So much there, and so many benefits for parents and for families and schools. And I'm just really excited because I was one of those speakers that schools would use, and I would come in and I would do my anti-bullying magic show, and you would see the principal just checking in the box. We don't have to deal with this anymore. And I would walk out of the school so disappointed, because I know no matter how excited I get the kids, it was 45 minutes, and maybe it would stick with them for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but it wasn't something that was going to make fundamental change in the schools. And this is what's needed to go into schools and really help kids change the way they are thinking, learn how to be courageous, to practice gratitude, to be forgiving. I love that idea of teaching kids to be compassionate, not only because you're supposed to, because it's the rules, but because it's good. You feel good when you're doing good for other people.
Yeah. And, there's this huge focus on kindness. And kindness is obviously a great thing, but I think sometimes the way we teach it in schools, it becomes a task. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to focus on kindness this week. You, Jed, you get 10 cans of soup and bring them in, and, you know, you do this, you do that, and then you've got your 10 cans of soup and you feel good. But it's mostly coming from the head. You have to include the heart. There has to be caring with kindness. Kindness without caring is a task. And so the compassion helps bring that caring about. I mean, when somebody truly cares about you, it is an incredible feeling, isn't it? And it's that incredible feeling of belonging that we all want and need, that even in workplaces, when CEOs hire top coaches to come in and work with their teams, they are number one working on this sense of belonging in the team. It's so important. And, you know, you started out this part of the conversation talking about how, you know, you could say you love a hamburger, but don't say you love the kids. And I think we see where that's gotten us, right? We have, record breaking numbers of kids committing suicide, younger and younger. We have the most ever deaths by drug overdoses in the history of mankind. In fact, overdoses increased 30% last year alone. And it's not like we haven't addressed this in schools. Bullying, you see, violence is out of control, not only in our schools, but in our society. So what are adults modeling for kids? We're teaching the wrong things. And why are we doing that? Because we don't have these essential life skills. And, you know, it takes humility as an adult to say, yeah, there's something that I can learn, and, you know, I can have fun with my kids, learning it with them. This is bringing love into schools. And the teachers are saying love because it's a part of the program. You know, you've got kids that are coming into schools that aren't being loved at home. And they are desperate for this. So while, yes, there was a little bit of reticence, it's so interesting. There was mostly reticence, thank you, by teachers for the older kids, because in the beginning they were saying, ooh, love. Are my middle and high schoolers going to think this is corny? And the amazing thing is that they may laugh and chuckle in the beginning, but in reality, they're desperate for it and they want it. And we've seen over and over again in the schools where the teachers refuse to teach it, say they don't have enough time or they're reticent. The kids actually say, okay, we'll teach it ourselves. We want to teach it to each other. There's a great example in Darien, Connecticut. This is where I grew up. I think they were trying to implement another program, and the kids really wanted Choose Love in the middle school. And so one middle schooler set up a table with a homemade Choose Love sign in the bus line. And he just ripped out a piece of paper from a notebook, and kids got off the bus, and he had over 100 people sign up for the Choose Love Club because they weren't going to teach it, but they still wanted it. And it became the most successful club in the history of Middlesex. And they had over 100 members. Everybody loved it. The next year, they were told that they didn't file the proper paperwork, so they were going to have to shut it down. And in fact, one of the administrators said, you know what, we're going to merge the Choose Love Club with the Mental Health Club. Okay. She brought the two presidents in, the co-presidents, and they were devastated. They didn't want to be a part of the Mental Health Club. They wanted to be part of the Choose Love Club. And the difference is, like the Mental Health Club, mental health and wellness is so important, but there's a stigma there that we all acknowledge, and perhaps a focus on the difficulty. And Choose Love addresses the cause of mental illness. In fact, it can reduce and prevent the majority of mental illnesses when we have these essential life skills. Amazing. So those kids wanting to focus on Choose Love, and it was kid driven. And actually, by the way, the parents got involved and they were able to keep the club going.
That's wonderful. I'm blown away, and I'm so happy that this is happening in our schools and in our country. Where can you mentioned that this is available for schools, it's available for homes. Where can folks go to find out more and how they can get involved?
There is something for everyone on our website. It is chooselovemovement.org. You can go onto the website, you can register, and you can have access for everything that we have. We have programming for schools, homes, communities. We have programming for prenatal moms. We have infant toddler programming for daycares, because it is so vitally important. A time for a baby's forming brain. So if you're like me and you're a single mom and you're dropping your babies off at daycare, public and private, like I was, bring this program to them. Literally, if you're a teacher that's going to school, print out a copy of it. If you drive by a daycare, just drop it off, because these are the kids that are coming into your classroom. And this is kind of self-serving, because you want them to be the strongest, most mentally healthy kids that you can have when they come into your classroom. There is so much. We have podcasts. We have blogs. We have a book club every month with incredible life-changing books, and we have the authors join us as well. We have a subscription series, which it gives every month teachers and parents these skills. You see Carolyn McGuire, who is the author of Why Will No One Play With Me, an incredible children's book. And it shows little glimpses of sessions that she has, private sessions with kids on video, and how she teaches them. Some of them are struggling with their social and emotional skills. So you can actually watch her teach them these skills and tools. And then I give a masterclass for parents in how we can model this for our kids. And so we have so much. I just urge everybody to go on. And if you're interested, if you have any questions, click the submit button, and there's always somebody around that can help you out and lead you through and guide you through.
Well, we want to encourage everybody to check out the website, really kind of open up your mind. Even if you're sitting back and your reaction is, this is the woo-woo stuff, and the teacher's right, that middle school kids don't want to talk about love.
Ooh, can I address the woo-woo just for a second?
Please.
Because there are decades of research, as I said before, behind teaching social and emotional learning to kids in the classroom. Kids, and ours is next generation. It's way beyond just the traditional social and emotional learning, but kids that are taught social and emotional learning in their classrooms get better grades and test scores. They have higher attendance, higher graduation rates, less emotional distress, better connections, better classroom climate and culture. Culture is probably the most important part of having a safe school. It is a statistically effective way to reduce and prevent bullying, and they have had so much research. They followed kids from kindergarten all the way into adulthood, and these now young adults have less mental health issues. They have less substance abuse, less violence and anger, less incarceration, even less divorce rates. I mean, this stuff stays with you. There's a reason it's called essential life skills.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So check it out. This is really important. And I just love how you took an incredible tragedy and you've turned it into this hopefully society changing movement.
Absolutely. Yes. That's my goal, is to make sure that every child has what we know is a direct path to flourishing provided for them. Every child. When I started, less than 10% of schools were teaching SEL in a comprehensive way. And so the understanding of the term has widened. Some state and federal funding is dependent on schools having SEL, but I think there's still a lot of confusion as to what it is and how to do it effectively. We have incredible professional development, a whole series best practices that can lead and guide you through how to doing that in the best way in your school. Listen, if I had kids in schools now, I have a son that's a senior at UConn, but if I had younger kids, I would literally just demand that the school have a comprehensive social and emotional learning program. We know so much. And also this is the number one way to have a safe school. Mm-hmm. So we have it all. Check out our website, chooselovemovement.org, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. We've had a really enlightening time speaking with the founder and driving force behind the Jessie Lewis Choose Love Movement, Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jed.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We'll have two wonderful authors for you. Anita Tosh will be here to celebrate the book of Jeremy. And Gramps Jeffrey will be here to celebrate I Don't Want to Turn 3. That's the next episode of the show. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Chris, I want to start by thanking our guest, Scarlett Lewis. Please check out the Choose Love Movement. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Michael Murphy, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. We all want to thank you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so very much for taking the time to choose love. And you choose love every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.